Welcome to the TezPay setup tutorial. To give you some background, bakers on Tezos are the entities that produce blocks, validate blocks, and receive rewards for that work. These bakers have outside users that are not bakers, that are not currently validating the chain. They have their Tez either staked or delegated with the bakers. The portion that is staked is handled automatically by the protocol on chain and does not require any kind of manual intervention from the bakers. However, delegators do require a separate independent payment process in order to get their rewards on the Tezos blockchain. So it is the responsibility of each baker to first of all determine whether they will officially accept delegators. And furthermore, it's their responsibility to define a payment schedule and then manually run some sort of a process to pay their delegators, whether it's every cycle or every few cycles. They have to make sure that they manually execute that process each time. So to help bakers do that, we have developed TezPay. What TezPay allows you to do is automatically calculate the rewards that all of your delegators are due, and then either manually or automatically pay these delegators every cycle. In its simplest iteration, TezPay is just a binary file, a configuration file, and a private key file. We recommend that all bakers utilize Ledger hardware wallets or some sort of a KMS to protect their baking keys. And this makes payments difficult if bakers would do it from a ledger, from a secondary ledger, or it would be problematic because some bakers actually import their ledger seeds on their computers into software wallets, and that makes the hardware protection a lot less effective. So what we recommend doing is creating a brand new wallet and then transferring funds to that wallet and using that wallet to pay your delegators that the delegator address is baking for. You also have to go to profiles.tzkt.io and create an identity for your payment wallet. If you have any questions, the Baking Bat team is happy to help and they're very responsive. To create a new wallet, simply use your favorite Tezos wallet and log in, create a new wallet, and then view its private key. I prefer to use Temple for this because honestly, the muscle memory is there. So I would just go into create an account. I would call it TezPay or something that makes sense to you. I will create the account. With the account selected, I'm going to go into settings and I'm going to reveal the private key. I'm going to copy this and because I don't really care about the safety of this key, but you should, I will copy it into a browser tab to keep track of it. Then the next step will be to download the TezPay application file. Now, to pay on Tezos, you do not have to do it from the machine that you're baking from. You can do it from the same machine if you want to, or you can do it on a secondary machine, and the two are completely independent of each other. It is also worth mentioning that you can use the TezPay module integrated with the TezBake utility. So if you're already baking on a computer and you also want to add automatic payments to that, then that's the way that you should go. Here we see the GitHub repository where the software is made available along with its source code. And to install it, you just have to use this command. In my home directory on my Linux system, I'm going to create a directory called TezPay. Then I'm going to enter that directory, and I'm going to paste the setup command there. And as always, you can review what the command is doing on GitHub. Okay, now we can see that there is a new TezPay file. We have to modify its permissions to make it executable. Now we are going to create the configuration file. You can get our starter sample configuration file on GitHub, or you could also do it in the documents. This is just the bare essentials that you have to address as a baker. And there is a much more comprehensive example of all the options that you can choose to employ as a private baker or a public baker. Whatever your use case is, the options in TezPay should make it possible for you to operate um, according to your preferences. So going down the list, here where it says your baker address, you have to grab your baker address, and paste it in. This is your actual baking address, not your payment address. And the reason why the software needs it is because we use our protocol-based system to estimate rewards based on the actual baker, not the payer. And this is indicated here. We use the strict protocol interpretation of how delegation rewards need to be paid out, and then we overlay that over the data that is provided by TZKT, and that is how the most precise payment is determined. Here you get to choose what fee you will be charging your delegators. And since this fee is not an on-chain fee, it's a social contract, you should talk to the Baking Bad people or the TZKT people to make sure that your fee is properly listed on the Blockchain Explorer. Here you can choose what your minimum payment amount is. And the reason why you may worry about this is if you have too many delegators with just dust amounts of Tez, they will receive payments. However, the fee that you pay or that they pay, in which case it would fail. So the fee you pay would be greater than the reward that they're owed. Going down the list, you can set minimum balance requirements. If you want to also kind of adjust this at the same time, effectively making sure that you will not be in a situation where if you pay um, the fees for the transfers yourself for the delegation rewards, that you're not net losing Tez because of that. And here, this is a default that 99% of bakers that I'm aware of use. In case where the bakers over delegate it, the dilution in rewards resulting from that is not borne by the bakers, or in other words, the existing delegators and the new delegator that ends up over delegating, they share the lesser rewards because of the over delegation. And depending on the amount of over delegation there is, the rewards will be smaller proportionally. So this is the bare config that you will need to get started. There is a config provided here for you on GitHub if you just want to download the file, or you can create config default manually, which is what I will do. Okay, so we just have the TezPay binary here, and now I will create the file that we just looked at. I'm going to copy the whole thing, including all the curly braces from top to bottom, paste it in, and I will make sure to change the only thing that needs changing before this is operational. And that's the address of my baker. Wait, what was it? Let's see. Ah, yes, there it is. Going to back into editing it, and I will paste the baker here. I will keep all the other defaults because this is just for demonstrational purposes. Okay, now we have 2 out of the 3 files that we need. And if you notice here, you will see that it is executable. It's got the little X. So that should be good to go when I try to invoke it. But first, we need the final piece of the puzzle. And the final piece is the wallet, or rather, the wallet's private key. So this goes over the same steps that we just went over. We got the private key. Now, I will create the private key file. So same process as the config. Here we saved the password. Oh, looks like we lost the password, so let's just grab it again. This is my payment wallet. I'm going to go into settings, do a private key, type that incredibly long and annoying password again incorrectly, and get the key. Make sure we get the key, paste it in, and go to the beginning, make sure everything makes sense. Control X, Y to confirm, enter to finalize. And now we have everything we need to just go TezPay, pay. And by default, it will pay the last cycle. Now, in order for this to work for you, you will have to be an existing baker that has performed baking rights during last cycle, and you have to show having delegators that are fully confirmed to receive payments. So effectively, you will not be able to pay or use TestPay successfully until you have some delegators to pay. And when that time comes, is essentially check for the cycle where your first rights were given, and then check again one cycle and two cycles after your first delegator delegates to you. And then from there, just keep checking every cycle until you see that you owe people rewards. And to just check, if you owe anybody any payments, you can run this command. By default, again, it'll use the last cycle. However, if you want to specify your own cycle, you can do it with dash dash cycle or just dash C. And then this way you can go back in time and pay for old cycles if you ever miss a payment or if something's not correct. That is how you will be invoking the cycle component. And this also has neat options like skipping the balance check, which just be aware that that exists. And when the time comes to use it, you will know what this means. So now, let's see what happens on mine. I will need to run it properly, which in our context, the binary is in a directory. It is not referenced in any system-wide folders. So for that reason, when I want to run the binary, I have to put a // Okay, this is our first issue, which is good. It says that I didn't properly name the config file. Yes. I should have spotted that I didn't have the right extension on a HJSON config file. So I'm just gonna go ahead and move that over to what the file is supposed to be. Check that everything is good now. And you will notice that the reports directory was created. And this is where currently there's not going to be anything in there, but this is where the reports from previous payments will be listed. And this is also where you will be able to use the TezPay statistics ability to get information about your payments and how many fees you paid and so on and so forth. So let's try to run that again. And keep in mind, this is from the perspective of a baker that's just starting out and doesn't have any delegators to pay. So this is what you should expect to see as well. Aha. And this is something that we need to talk about. If you just create a wallet on Tezos with no balance, it has not revealed itself, so it's not part of the context. And that's essentially what the error message is telling us. So a good way to do this is to send some tests to your wallet, and that's going to be step number 1. So I will copy my address, go into a wallet that's got a little bit of Tez, and I will send it, let's say 0.11 Tez. In just a few seconds, I should be receiving it on the other end. Okay, so we're not done yet. We have sent an address some Tez, but that Tez is essentially like a ghost because the address has not revealed itself. And in my opinion, for new users, the best way to reveal is just to send yourself some dust. And if you notice, that causes the address to be revealed, and it is now available to be indexed and recognized on the blockchain. So going back to the command, it is going to tell you what cycle it checked for. And to see what cycle we're in, we can use tzkt. So it checked if I did any baking work and owed any delegators anything. And it said that I don't have any data for that. So as each cycle finishes, when you start getting delegators, start running the generate payouts. And when it shows that you owe somebody payments, at that point you can do TezPay pay, and that'll pay for the same cycle. And do not worry about paying your delegators twice because the reports directory will make sure that doesn't happen. And this, of course, comes with the caveat that if you start doing this on a different computer, or if you switch paying from just a directory on a computer to using the TezPay pay functionality, you're going to have to take the reports folder and copy it over for that protection and all the other perks to kick in on your new setup. So keep that in mind. So let's see what happens when I try to pay, but I don't owe anybody anything. Same thing. So if you want to save some time, you can just do this. You will have to confirm it anyway. And if you want to do a two-step process where there is no chance of anybody getting paid, you can run the generate payouts command, and then you will see its output. And then you can also go into reports and you can see what it prepared for you there as well. Once you are good and comfortable with doing manual payments and that the payments are accurate, you can get into the continual payments where TezPay will keep running indefinitely and it'll detect the change of cycles. And after a certain amount of blocks, a reasonable amount of blocks that's random so it doesn't overload the network, it'll automatically pay if there's funds in your payment account. So this is kind of the main benefit of not paying from your ledger. You have complete automation. And to protect yourself at first, always keep a minimal amount of Tez in your payment wallet. If you feel like you should be transferring it on a cycle by cycle basis, you can use the TZKT Explorer and estimate how much you'll need to send. As you feel more comfortable, you can transition to the continual mode. And a final thing that's worth mentioning is continual mode will always stop upon a protocol change. So let's say that the current SOL protocol passes. We are going to go ahead and detect that change. And then at that point, we are going to shut down continual, and we encourage all bakers to manually check rewards and make sure that there's no obvious or small, whatever you can detect discrepancies, just to make sure that everything's accurate for everybody else. Bakers rely on other bakers to make everyone's life easier. At this point, you should be good to run a public baker on Tezos. And as you get more advanced with TezPay, you can make it work with a GUI, which I always recommend doing second, so you understand under the hood what's going on. And you can set up notifications. And notifications are in terms of whether your balance is low to yourself. And there is also Twitter notifications that you can set up. And there is Discord notifications, and there is Telegram notifications. And you should definitely utilize these notifications because they make sure that delegators know that you're paying, and at the same time, they let you know that you're running low on balance and you need to replenish your wallet. As you get more into the process, make sure that you review the sample config and explore the descriptions for all the items to make sure that everything is set up the way that you'd like it to, especially when it comes to co-owning a bakery or something custom like that. If you have any questions, we are always happy to help you in our Discord, Twitter, of course, and also on Telegram. Thank you and have a good day.